I was never the type to dream of being a stepmother. I didn't grow up imagining happy endings with a house full of children that weren't mine. But, oh, life has this strange talent of putting us exactly where we swore we'd never be. And that's how I became the intruder in my husband's daughter's life. My name is Renata. I'm 42 years old, and I've been married to Davi for 6 years. He's the kind of man who made my heart skip a beat when I met him. He's kind, patient, and has a smile that seems to apologize for everything that's ever hurt me in my life. But unlike him, his daughter looks at me as if I were the very error incarnate. Melissa. Just saying her name makes me feel a lump in my throat. Not because of anger, but because of everything that this girl represented and destroyed inside me. She was 17 when I entered their lives for good, and from the first glance, I knew she hated me, not with the kind of fleeting antipathy. It was a charged, silent hatred that manifested itself in every absence, every pointed answer, every sharp look at the dinner table. It was as if my existence erased something in her that I would never understand. She's still suffering from the separation, David said, trying to justify himself. But he didn't see what I saw. He didn't hear the cruel whispers behind the door. He didn't notice the dishes left dirty on purpose, or the notes with insults disguised as jokes. "You're not my mother, don't even try to be." It was written on a sheet of paper stuck to the door of my room. Yes, my room, because she even invaded my space, just to make it clear that I was a foreign body in that house. At first, I swear, I tried. I baked cakes the way she liked them. I bought her the books I knew she read. I even tried to talk to her, to make space, to be something other than the woman who slept with her father. But nothing worked. Nothing broke that wall she built between us. The ironic thing, I admired her. Even though she was cruel, even though she hurt me every day, Melissa was smart, insightful, determined. I saw a pain in her that I recognized, because once I too was a teenager furious at the world. The difference was that she didn't know that I understood exactly how she felt, and maybe that's why I did what I did, in secret, with all due care, with love. Yes, with love. Even though she was the target of the cruelest rejection I've ever faced, even though she was reduced to an enemy, I wanted her to have the future she deserved. Because deep down, I knew, her hatred wasn't really for me. It was for the absence of her mother, for the pain of loss, for the feeling that the world had stolen something from her that no one could ever give back. But she didn't know that yet. And I stayed there firm, even though I was bleeding inside. She had to hate me, and I had to endure it. Little did Melissa know that I was about to change her life in a way no one expected. Not her, not David, not myself. But before that could happen, the universe still had much to teach us about hurt, pride, and redemption. And the pain, oh, the pain was just beginning. That afternoon I came home early. I remember the soft light streaming through the windows, the unusual silence, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee. For a moment, I thought it was going to be a good day. One of those rare moments when Melissa might not be in attack mode. But as soon as I entered the room, I felt something was wrong. Her phone was lying on the couch, open, and a message notification was flashing. I'm not the type to invade other people's privacy, but what I saw was by accident. The screen turned on by itself, and there, right in front of me, was a group chat with the title, Real Family, staring back at me. My eyes ran through the messages. At first, I thought they were talking about someone else. Then I understood. They were talking about me. "She's ridiculous. Do you think a cake can solve a life? I can't even stand her smell. My father is an idiot for marrying that woman. I told you, I'll find a way to get her out of here. Just wait." Melissa's last era. My heart froze. I was shaking. So many times I wondered if I was overreacting, if the hatred I felt from her was just paranoia in my tired head. But there was the proof. Clear, cruel. My presence was not only unwanted, she was plotting against me. That night, I pretended nothing had happened. I made dinner. I smiled with my lips, but my whole face hurt. My stomach churned. And when David arrived, I hugged him like he was the last anchor in a silent storm. "Is everything okay?" he asked affectionately. "Honey, just tired." I lied. And then came the final blow. 2 days later, on a Sunday morning, David called me to talk. His expression was heavy, as if he was carrying a burden. "I got a call from Melissa's school. The coordinator wants to talk to us. It seems like there was an incident." We went together, and what I heard there dismantled me. Melissa had told management that I was mistreating her, that I was making cruel comments about her mother, hiding food, making her sleep without a heater in the cold, throwing away her clothes, lies, all of them. And yet, said with such precision, that they seemed like facts. "It's very serious, Mrs. Renata," said the coordinator, looking at me cautiously. "We have to investigate. The complaint was made anonymously, but Melissa confirmed it. And it's not the first time she's mentioned it to colleagues and teachers." I looked at Melissa. She was there, sitting, motionless, free, as if she were in a play she herself wrote. On the way home, David was silent, and when we arrived, he said, I need to believe you, but I can't ignore this. I need some time. Please go to your sister's house, just until we figure this out." He asked me to leave my own house. I stood there, standing, with the world slowly collapsing. She did it. Melissa finally destroyed me. He threw me out of the life I tried to build. He threw mud over everything I did in silence for love, and he still had the applause of the school, the doubt of the father, the complacency of everyone. I left, with a suitcase and a heart in pieces. My sister welcomed me with open arms, but even she didn't know how to put it all back together. And it was in that guest bed, looking at the cold, dark ceiling, that I understood. The time had come to stop explaining myself, to stop begging for love where there was only contempt. If Melissa wanted war, so let it be war. But I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't stoop to her game. My revenge would be silent, precise, and devastating. And when she found out the truth, it would be too late. They were the longest days of my life. I was sitting on my sister's porch, my bag still leaning against the wall, as if this were all temporary. A pause, a mistake that would soon be resolved. But as the hours turned into days, and the days turned into weeks, the hope I carried in my chest began to rot. David stopped responding to my messages. At first, there were short, evasive answers. Then, absolute silence. Once a week, I would try calling, and when he answered, his voice was distant, as if we were speaking from different planets. I could tell something in him had changed. It wasn't just doubt. It was guilt, shame, or worse, acceptance. Melissa had won. She didn't just cut me out of their lives. She rewrote my entire story to make me look like a monster. "People talk, you know," my sister said one day cautiously. "What are they talking about? That you weren't nice to the girl. That maybe you overdid it." That hurt more than any words Melissa had ever said or written against me. People didn't want the truth. They wanted a story that was easy to believe. And in this story, the evil stepmother was a much more comfortable role than the woman who loved, cared for, and was discarded. Even my work was affected. In the office where I worked as a psychopedagogue, mothers started canceling sessions. Students stopped showing up. Some didn't even hide the reason. "I don't feel comfortable leaving my daughter with you anymore. I'm sorry." No formal trial, no evidence, no chance to defend myself. I was being erased from real life, canceled, silenced, humiliated. Alone in a room that wasn't mine, surrounded by voices that echoed through social media with indirect comments and judgments based on nothing, I found myself diving into a dark place. A place I thought I had left behind many years before. I started to doubt myself. Was I ever too harsh? Did I try too hard? Could the problem always have been me? But the memories screamed against that idea. I remembered the day I spent the night making the costume for the school play that Melissa forgot to hand in. The day I spent hours with her in the hospital because of an allergy that her father didn't even notice. From the birthday party I organized alone because David was traveling. Of the flowers I bought for her, just to see a smile. That never came. None of it could be false. None of it was evil. And it was in this abyss that a light, faint but determined, began to shine within me. A small voice, almost whispering, "You don't need her to love you, but she will respect you, even if it's just for the truth." That's when I made the decision. I couldn't keep waiting for justice to come from words. I needed to act, but not like her. I wasn't going to destroy anyone. I was going to build a truth so undeniable, so solid, that even the deepest hatred could not deny it. And this truth already existed. It was in everything I did for Melissa. Everything I planted in silence that she never knew. I just had to make her see it. And when she saw it, she would collapse. But before that, I needed something more important. Rebuild the woman she tried to destroy. I went back to studying. I created a new social project. I surrounded myself with other women who had also been silenced by distorted narratives. It wasn't just about me, it was about all of us. And as I stitched together the pieces of what was left of me, something inside me grew like a root buried in stone. I was going to prove her wrong, and that the love she threw away was the only thing that could have saved her. It was on a rainy Saturday that the idea first took shape. I was sitting alone in a coffee shop near downtown, a notebook open in front of me, when I realized there was a fine line between revenge and redemption, and maybe Maybe I was the only person willing to cross that line, not out of nobility, not out of ego, but because I knew she was still a girl trying to save herself from pain and destroying everyone around her in the process. Melissa hated out loud what I did in silence. She screamed as I sewed. She was hurting while I was taking care of her. And maybe what she hated most wasn't me, but the fact that I never hated her back. I decided that I would not respond with war. My revenge would be more cruel, more definitive, and infinitely more true. I would make her a whole woman, without her knowing it. And when the truth came out, she would have to swallow everything she said, every lie, every gesture of contempt, every word of hate. And what I did was simple, but accurate. First, I reached out to the literature teacher from her old school, the only one she really cared about. He said he wanted to help her get into a top university. Who knew about her talent for writing? That the girl he met had the potential to be so much more than the shadow of a resentful teenager. He, surprised, hesitated. She said some very harsh things about you. And do you believe them? I asked calmly. I think she's confused and hurt. Then help me, because if no one holds her hand now, she will be lost forever. With your help, I rescued all of her texts. I put together an impeccable portfolio. I secretly organized an application for a literary exchange program with a full scholarship that no one in the family could even dream of achieving. But that's when the biggest challenge came. I couldn't be the name behind the nomination, so I created an anonymous profile. Marina Duarte, a fictional woman, founder of a project to encourage writing for young people in public schools. I sent emails, letters of recommendation. I created a small blog with texts from fictitious students and inserted excerpts from Melissa there, as if she were already part of the project. All this, to take her where she would never have gone on her own. Every detail was planned with surgical precision. I did this at night, after returning from school where I volunteered as a tutor. During the day, I rebuilt my image. At night, I built her future. And all this without a message, without a thank you, without even a conversation. But the hardest part was yet to come. I needed to convince her to participate in the program's final competition, a public presentation with a free theme where she would have to expose her soul in a text in front of strangers. Melissa would never do that, not alone. It was then that I approached her best friend, Lara. Not like Renata, but like Marina. I sent a letter. Your friend Melissa has a rare talent. We need her to believe in it. Can you help her? Along with the letter was a ticket to a writing workshop, fully paid for, with Melissa's name already written as a guest student. The event was tied to the same fictional project I created. Lara fell right in. She showed the letter to Melissa, and even though reluctantly, she went. On the day of the workshop, I stood outside, watching from afar. Melissa was different, more restrained, less angry, as if a part of her still searched for meaning in the chaos she herself had created. I saw her stand out in the reading circle. I saw the sparkle come back into her eyes, my stepdaughter blooming, for the first time, and she had no idea who was behind it. That night, I cried in the car. Not for her, for me. Because there, in the back of an anonymous audience, I realized I still loved her, even after everything. And just maybe, my greatest revenge would be to make her see that. Too late. But for that, I needed more. She wasn't ready yet, and her pain wasn't over either, because something much bigger was coming. And this time, I wouldn't be the one to suffer the consequences. In the months that followed, Melissa transformed, little by little, almost imperceptibly. She started posting fewer indirect messages on social media. The selfies with poisonous captions disappeared. The acidic jokes with the word stepmother disappeared from her stories, and in their place, texts appeared. Long, personal, too beautiful to be ignored. Some were about pain, some were about anger. But there, in the midst of so much raw emotion, was a glimmer of hope. The Melissa who wrote was trying to find the girl she once was before anger took over. David, for his part, remained absent. We only exchanged dry, short, almost bureaucratic messages. He never talked about me coming back again. He never asked how I was again. And at that point, I didn't expect it anymore either. The truth is that what kept me alive was no longer the possibility of returning. It was the certainty that my departure, however cruel it was, had made room for something greater. That's when I received confirmation from the International Committee. Melissa had been accepted to participate in the final stage of the writing program, with the text that I had organized and submitted myself. She would receive a formal invitation in a few days, signed by Marina Duarte. According to the program, she would be entitled to a scholarship in London if she was selected among the finalists. But to do so, she would have to participate in the last round, an open speech about her inspiration for writing, a sincere speech. Guys, it would be broadcast online to the entire project community, including teachers, judges, and invited family members. And that's when I started setting the stage. I contacted the person responsible for the broadcast, a longtime partner in social projects who had owed favors to my family since high school. I just need the final broadcast to have 2 cameras, one facing her and another facing a special guest. And who would this guest be? You'll know on the day, I replied, with a restrained smile. The following week, I saw a post by Melissa celebrating the selection. I can't believe I was chosen. After everything. After all this chaos, someone looked at me. I read that with tears in my eyes. She still didn't know who someone was, but very soon, I would find out. And when she found out, she would understand that she was never alone, that even as she spat hate, there was someone collecting the shards and turning them into a bridge. That was it, the bridge. My revenge was this: make her cross alone the abyss she dug between us, and saw on the other side the only person who always believed in her. But before the final presentation, there was one last step, a seed I needed to plant. I wrote to her again, anonymously, as Marina. I sent a simple, handwritten letter with words chosen with surgical care. You don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that someone saw your pain and decided to turn it into art. Sometimes our greatest allies are hidden in the shadows we've learned to hate. Good luck. We're rooting for you. The week of the presentation, she posted an emotional video holding the letter. Someone saw me. Really. I never thought I deserved this. I just wanted to say thank you. I don't know who you are, Marina, but thank you for believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself. And there, for an instant, my heart wavered. Should I really show who I am? Wouldn't exposing the truth destroy everything she has built? Or could it be that only by revealing everything could she finally truly grow? Doubt gnawed at me, but it was too late. Everything was already ready. The stage is set, the cameras positioned, the invited audience, and Melissa about to step into the center of it all, with me, watching from the front row. But what would she say on that stage? Would change everything, including the ending I thought I had written. It was a small, cozy theater with just over 100 seats, the kind of place where words echo louder than applause, and silences weigh like screams. I arrived early. I sat discreetly in the 3rd row, hair tied up, neutral clothing. I wanted to be invisible, but present, witness to the moment when everything would align, or it would fall apart. The event staff was bustling around, cameras were being positioned, lights were being adjusted, and then she walked in, Melissa, with her hair down, her posture a little less aggressive than I remembered, but still with that haughty sparkle in her eyes. She was beautiful, strong, and on the outside, she seemed invincible. Only on the outside. There was something in his eyes, a concern, as if, even without knowing it, she felt that that day would not just be about a text, but about everything she tried to hide, including from herself. The event has started. Other young people introduced themselves. Beautiful, profound texts, but I could barely pay attention. My hands were sweating. My heart was beating too fast. And then they called her name. With you? Melissa Andrade. She took the stage firmly. He was holding a paper, but he didn't read it. He looked at the audience. He took a deep breath, and it began. For a long time, I saw myself as a victim. Victim of absence, pain, injustice. Victim of the woman who entered my life without invitation. From the woman who, I thought, wanted to steal my mother's place. And because of that, I hated her. For existing. For insisting. The audience fell into absolute silence. She continued. Read the letters I received. I discovered that sometimes the hate we feel is just the echo of an unresolved longing, and that anger is a pain that has not yet had the courage to turn into tears. She paused for a second. He swallowed hard. He looked ahead, and for the first time, saw me. Yes, our eyes met, not as a stepmother and stepdaughter, but like 2 women, broken by the same story. There was a subtle tremor on his face. Her hand dropped, the paper trembling, and then she dropped the bombshell, without wanting to, without knowing. I always wanted to know who Marina Duarte was, the woman who saw me when no one else did. But today I think maybe I already know. Because only someone who knew my pain up close could write such true things. The audience murmured. An uneasy buzz. I stood still. She was on the verge of understanding, and it was at that moment that the technical coordinator made a signal. The second camera has been activated, and the image projected on the theater's main screen was mine, my face, my presence. Melissa saw me. But more than that, she understood. Her hands fell to her sides. The text slipped. His lips parted, but no sound came out. The audience didn't understand right away. But she does. And in a whisper that only I could hear, she said, "It was you." She began to tremble. The tears came, out of control. True. She turned her back to the audience, putting her hand over her mouth as if she needed to stop the tears from coming out. But it was too late. The truth had torn apart everything that was left of the character she herself created. And on that stage, in front of everyone, she broke down. The project coordinator rushed upstairs, trying to resolve the situation, but there was nothing left to fix. What had been exposed could no longer be hidden. Melissa ran off the stage. And me, I remained seated, property, cold on the outside, destroyed from within. The revenge had been executed perfectly, but for some reason, it hurt me more than it hurt her. Because there, in front of everyone, she finally felt it. All. The weight of what he did, the love that rejected, the woman who slandered. And for the first time, she had to face her own truth in the mirror. But that wasn't the end yet. It was just the beginning of the fall. The news of the revelation exploded like gunpowder on dry paper. On the same day of the presentation, videos began to circulate on social media. Excerpts from Melissa's speech, her reaction upon seeing me, the seconds of tearful silence and my image projected on the screen. Within minutes, thousands of views. Within hours, tens of thousands. Some wanted to understand, others speculated, but most just wanted to judge. The narrative began to change, this time, in my favor. Was it the stepmother who did everything for her? She hated her, and in the end, she was the one who loved her the most. Renata created an entire project just to rescue her stepdaughter, and she didn't even know. What makes someone love someone so much that they destroy them? The questions echoed across the internet, but the most impressive thing was what happened at home. David called me that same night. I hesitated to answer, but I did. "Renata, I don't know what to say." "Then don't say anything. You did all this for her? Even after everything you did to me?" "Yes, I was a coward." "No, you were a scared father, and she was a little girl screaming for help. She wants to see you." Silence. These words sounded like thunder inside me. For months I've dreamed about it, and now that I've heard it, I don't know if I want it. But the next day, there I was, in front of the house that was once mine, standing, heart racing. The door opened. It was her, Melissa. No makeup, hair tied in a loose bun, red eyes, but no arrogance. For the first time, she looked like a girl, not an enemy. "You came," he said, his voice trembling. "You called me. I didn't know." "I know." Silence. She took a deep breath. Tears filled her eyes, and then fell to her knees on the floor. "Forgive me for everything. I messed up. I accused you. I made you leave. I destroyed you. And yet, you stayed. Behind it all, you stayed." I knelt down with her. I held her face in my hand. "You didn't destroy me. You made me stronger. And now, it's your turn to be strong. But there's something you need to know, Melissa. Forgiveness is a choice, not an obligation. And we will need time." She nodded with tears streaming down her face. "I accept, as long as you need. Just don't leave me alone." There, on that cold living room floor, amidst tears and scars, the war ended. But the battle was still ongoing. Because outside, the world was now watching everything with hungry eyes. The school coordinator, who believed Melissa's lies, sent me an email. Short, cold. "We formally apologize for what happened. The school is taking steps to review its protocols for reporting without evidence." I felt avenged, but not satisfied. It's not about feeling good about other people's downfall. It's about feeling whole, after everyone has torn you apart. I started receiving invitations for interviews, lectures, podcasts, but I refused them all. This story was no spectacle. It was my life. And then, in the silence that followed the applause, Melissa reappeared, this time in the school newspaper. An article signed by her. Title, "The Woman I Hated Was the One Who Saved Me." In the text, she exposed everything, every detail. He took responsibility for the lies, the attacks, the damage caused, and he dedicated an entire paragraph to me. Renata was not my stepmother. She was my silent mother, the unsung heroine of my story. And now I have the chance to rewrite the ending, with her, not against her. It was there that I realized revenge did not destroy Melissa. She revealed it, and I was ready for whatever came, including to forgive. After Melissa's article was published, everything changed. Not explosively, as happens in the movies, but in a succession of small collapses, like cracks that slowly cross a wall until it gives way entirely. The first breakdown happened where it hurt the most at first, at my job. Some parents who had previously avoided me began to quietly return. They sent shy messages like, "I heard the story. If there's still space, my daughter would love to resume the sessions." Others didn't have the courage to apologize. They just came back as if nothing had happened. But I knew. They knew they were wrong, that they judged too quickly, that they dismissed me as if I were guilty of something without even hearing my voice, and I let them come back. But never the same again, because my self-esteem was no longer for sale. My dignity didn't fit into a therapy schedule. The second collapse happened inside the house. David tried as best he could to get closer. He arranged meetings. He sent flowers. He wrote letters. In one of these meetings, he confessed, "I knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to see it. I was afraid to face my daughter's pain and my cowardice. You deserved much more than my doubt. I didn't want to be more than her. I just wanted to be someone by your side. But you pushed me away as if I were a risk, David. And I was blind. I let myself be manipulated by a desperate teenager. You weren't blind. You were convenient." He swallowed hard. There was no more covering up. In that conversation, David apologized to me with tears in his eyes, not for the pain he caused, but for taking the easy way out while I struggled alone. I forgave him, but I made it clear I wouldn't go back. He was part of a phase of my life that ended with the suitcase on my sister's doorstep. And even with regret, some bridges don't need to be rebuilt. They need to be left as they are, in ruins. The third collapse was the most unexpected. Melissa's biological mother reached out to me. Yes, the woman who for years lived far away but was still seen as the sacred, untouchable, invisible but idealized figure, called me. "I want to thank you. I wasn't able to be there like I should have been, and you were everything she needed, even though she hated me. I didn't do it for recognition. I know, and maybe that's why you deserve more than any of us." I cried after the call, not for her, but finally someone saw the obvious. I did everything without an audience, and yet I changed a life. And what about Melissa? She changed. Our relationship didn't turn into a fairy tale. We don't hug every day. We are not best friends. But she writes to me every week. Letters, actually, made of paper. And in each one, there is more humility, more love, more truth. She talks about the exchange, the classes, the discoveries. In one of them, he wrote, "Today, when people ask me who my greatest source of strength is, I say your name, without hesitation. And if I am anything good today, it is because you had the courage to love me when no one else could bear to look me in the eyes." That letter was kept in my drawer. And whenever fear hits, I reread it, not to brag. But remember that the most beautiful revenge is the one that makes the other person grow, even if they cry, even if it's too late. Those who abandoned me never looked at me the same way again. Those who attacked me hid, and those who doubted me now cite me as an example. But I know what I was, I know where I fell, and I know who was there when no one else was. You. In the end, no one saved me. I saved myself. And along the way, I saved her too. And now, I could finally close this chapter. Or, almost. Because there was one last thing missing. Today is autumn. The light shines softly on the balcony of my new home, which is neither large nor luxurious, but smells of everything I have achieved with dignity. Time seems to move more slowly here. Maybe because I have finally stopped running. Melissa wrote to me yesterday. The letter came with a photo of her smiling as she stood at a bookstall in London, holding her first published text in an anthology of young writers. In the note, she wrote, "This text was born out of hate. It was healed by silence, and it became art thanks to you. I don't know if I'll ever be able to give you back everything you did for me, but I hope that every word of mine is a way of honoring your courage, with love, of the girl who cried with regret and was reborn because of you." I kept the photo on the shelf, next to the first letter I received from her years ago, the one taped to my bedroom door, where it said, "You're not my mother, don't even try to be." I left them both there, one next to the other, from hate to love, from contempt to admiration, from silence to truth, because that's my story, made of losses that taught me to stay standing, of rejections that taught me to love without conditions, of falls that taught me to build, even when everything around me called for destruction. No, I didn't get back together with David. And no, Melissa and I do not live together. But you know what? That doesn't matter. What matters is that she now knows the truth, who saw who I was all along, and that you will never forget. Because forgiveness is not the reward, it's the restart. What about revenge? True revenge is not the pain of others. It's the peace you find when you look in the mirror and know, I did the right thing, even when no one did it for me. Today, I opened a new social project for silenced women, for those who, like me, have been called exaggerated, liars, or invisible. We give a voice to stepmothers, teachers, and caregivers, to all those who loved and were spat on for it. Melissa called on the opening day. Do you want me to write about you? No, write about yourself and let your story show what no one wanted to hear before. I love you, you know. I know, and now you can say it without guilt. I hung up the phone with a light heart. Because I won. Not because it was recognized, not because I was forgiven, but because even though I hated it, I loved it. Even though I was humiliated, I remained. Even alone, I planted. And today, I reap the silence full of peace that comes from justice done with love.